Ulonkata bati yada tó yẹ kó máa da ifá. Inú tó yẹ kó jẹun ló fi bí pa. Ọbàtálá, ọba takuntakun. Ṣàngó, Èṣù, Ògún, Ọya, Ọ̀ṣun. Ìwọ ló ń bọ̀ nílé. Kí ni ṣẹ̀ṣe tán ṣe nílé yìí o? Ó jẹ́ lọ jára.
Peace and blessings, fam. Welcome to another episode of the African Spirituality Experience. I am your host, Orisha Bami, and today we have another fire broadcast ahead for the tribe, man, for the family. We're bringing back the Wunam Nikki Love will be joining us. Right now, we're trying to fight through some technical difficulties with the technology, so definitely going to fight through and push through as we always do, family. But first and foremost, I want to give a shout out to the tribe, Ashe Nation. I appreciate all of y'all for tapping in and joining us. I appreciate the love, the support, the new subscribers, the new we got some new tribe members. We got a couple of new members who joined the community, private community as well. So I want to give a shout out to everybody who joined the new communities, as well as shout out to Wunam, Nikki Love, and shout out to the whole Ashe Nation. And with that, family, I want to jump into the topic of today, which we were going to be discussing, is trauma and how that affects people's relationships. That's because I want to get deep into this conversation, because this is one that we've had off air a few times, and her perspective is profound on that one, just like everything else that she does on the show when she comes through, man. So it's definitely been a lot of positive feedback, a lot of love, support, for the Ashe that she's bringing to the channel, as well as all the different, I feel like, dynamics that come from the diversity that she has with the gifts that she has in regards to being a seer, like being a visionary, being a seer, being a Alafia. Hey. Peace and blessings. How you doing, Muna?
Alafia, that's right. That's right. We got a lot to talk about, y'all.
I said, yes, indeed. That's literally what I was just chopping up with him, just letting them know, that this is something that we've spoken about off air, and I was like, yo, your perspective on it was dope. So I'm like, you know what, I would love to do a show, specifically for this topic, because I know the tribe would definitely get a lot from it. I know I'm gonna get a lot from it, and I know you have a lot to give to it. So that's why I was looking forward to us, making this show happen and making it do what it do. So first and foremost, I appreciate you for taking the time, to stop through and show love again. And people they've been blowing it up, man, on the comments on the channel, showing love and support. So
okay.
I definitely appreciate that. And I was telling them, I appreciate it. So and shout out to the King Ogun Shola. I appreciate him as well. So, I definitely know that y'all are a mighty force. So with that, man, I'm ready to get this thing cracking.
Okay. All right.
Yes,
all right.
Sir.
All right. So, I'm happy to be back too.
Ashe.
Thank you. Yeah, we got to start out with the prayers now. We got to ask the ancestors to rise.
It's all yours.
Ancestors to speak to me. Ancestors, calling on the ancestors to speak to me. I'm asking for this show to be full of wisdom for the people that are listening. We want to thank our ancestors for guiding us every day. We're asking that the ancestors continue to guide us, continue to protect us, to continue to infuse us with their wisdom. And we thank our brother, Orisa Bemi, for putting on such good shows that is needed in the community. And we ask that you continue to do the good things you do. I say, Tori Move.
Ashe. Yes, sir. That's what's up. Yeah. All right. So trauma. This is something that has really deeply affected us as a people, for what, I don't know, 500-600 years. We've been dealing with a lot of trauma from the Ma'afa, also known as the transatlantic slave trade, as well as, a lot of things that's still going on now. And shout out to the young brother, I believe his name was Young Scooter, the young brother that I think that just transitioned up your way somewhere in like that Atlanta area, I believe.
I think so.
Yeah, man. So shout out to that. I've been seeing the internet going crazy with that. I'm not sure exactly what happened. Some reports are saying that he was shot by the police. Some reports are saying it was an injury. So I don't know what's true and what's real, but I know we'll find out in due time. But with that, trauma, like that's something that's trauma right now in real time, as we had this show already scheduled. So it's like, when it comes to that, and it comes to trauma, right? With you being someone who is a natural healer, what are you, like a second or third generation healer? Like
I'm the fifth generation. Fifth generation. Yeah. All the way from my great grandmother, which was from Angola.
Wow. Yeah. That's powerful. Yeah. So with you being a fifth generational healer, and I know you've done phenomenal work for a lot of people. I'm talking about powerful work too. When it comes to this thing called trauma, where would you say, as an individual, us as individuals who deal with trauma, and I feel like if you're someone who lives on the planet Earth, I'm pretty sure you deal with some sort of trauma, you know what I mean? Depending on your lifestyle, your upbringing, your environment, all that can play a a role into how much you do or how much you do not,
Mhm.
or how much you are or are not affected by trauma. But for us as melanated people, generationally, we have been dealing with this for a while now. So when
Mhm.
it comes to this thing called trauma, what would you say is like one of the most common things that you have to help people with that you heal? But also, where would you recommend that we start individually to work on ourselves to kind of heal and to work on peeling back these layers of this thing called trauma?
Well, let's go back now. Let's think about let's talk about the subconscious first of all,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is programmed 90% of the time. And everything we do is based off of the subconscious mind. Okay. So all the things that we experience is embedded in our subconscious. When you talked about the Atlantic slave trade, right? Let's go back there because it's actually started off in my country of Cabo Verde. I don't know if you all know Amilcar Cabral. He was a Pan African, and it started back there in Cape Verde off of this, Atlantic slavery. When we actually understand how people of melanin have been brainwashed and programmed, okay, to
Mm-hmm.
no avail. It's to no avail to the point where over the years we've done many, many shows. We had great scholars on the shows. And what's crazy, our people still need healing. Still haven't gotten it together. You know what I mean? So when we speak of that type of trauma, we're talking about a type of trauma that's embedded in the subconscious mind. And we have to, as I call it, we have to get deprogrammed, deleted, and reprogrammed. Okay, because it's sort of like it's running through your bloodline. As well as it's in your subconscious mind, it's like it's running through your bloodline. You can't help it because this one had this problem. I want to start for one. The number one thing I'm gonna say, it seems like every few years it changes. Because at one time I was dealing with a lot of trauma with some of our brothers and sisters that had been molested. Okay. And I didn't realize how many men had been molested as women until I did a whole show on it when I was doing radio. Okay. And it just hurt my heart. But I was really impressed with the fact that the brothers was coming forward saying, "Hey, yes, I've been molested and I need help." That's a type of trauma, molestation. And then we have the trauma of being conquered and divided. Now we want to go back to slavery. They conquered and divided. They took the mother and the father away. They separated the children. You know, and I think a lot of that is in the subconscious mind and has affected us generation after generation after generation after generation. Okay, we have the trauma of non-communication, the huge communication between black men and black women, right? That's another type of trauma that we have been brainwashed and programmed with by certain things they would do, like put subliminal contracts into, in the community. Well, black women, we gonna let you go to school. Black men, you ain't nothing. We gonna take you out of the household. You can get welfare. You can get this. If y'all remember, what was that movie years ago with Diane Carroll in it? And y'all know what I'm talking about, where they would separate the black man and the black woman. So now they uplifting the black woman, and then they, bringing down the black man because he ain't worthy, right? He ain't worthy no more. So that's a type of trauma. So, we can start whatever one you want to start with, we can talk about first.
Yeah. Yeah, nah, that's powerful. I mean, because all of those are real. They're real. So yeah, I would like to go. Oof, I I, the, I don't want to. Yeah, okay, forget it. Let's go with molestation.
He
Now,
said, "Yeah, okay."
I'm trying to keep my composure and my energy, but one of them topics is one that really it cooks my cornflakes, man. It get me hot. So, but let's just dive into it because I know this one is a major one. Let's get into the molestation. So you said that you didn't know that as many males were molested by females.
I did not.
Wow.
And I
Mm,
found out a couple of years ago because one of the things we would do is when I would deal with any women or children
mm-hmm,
that was molested, what we do is we take them down the, excuse me, down by the sea, okay?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And we wash them at the sea, and there's certain rituals we do over them to remove that spirit because people don't understand that's a spirit. You
right.
understand? Because you notice what happens is if they've been molested, they either become promiscuous, they become, they don't want to be with men, or they become gay, or you know what I mean? So there's
Right.
a lot of things that take place because of that trauma. So what
Mm.
we do is we take them down by the sea, we wash them for a few days, take them, get them, pray over them, do, chants over them.
Mhm.
Now, when I was doing radio, I had a cousin, one of my cousins, and he says, I want to come on your show and talk about that because I touched on it, on a few shows, but then I never got really deep into it.
Mhm.
Then all of a sudden, I had a school of brothers that was coming in talking about they had been molested.
Mm.
And I didn't realize that 75% of men had been molested just like women.
Wow.
And the problem was that they were raised not to talk about it. It was okay for a 14-year-old to get molested by a 20-year-old because that makes him a man. No,
Wow.
that's not okay.
Right.
Because I know a few of the brothers I began to counsel after that became, it bothered them.
Mm.
They was like, it bothered me.
Right.
A 20-year-old woman making me do this to her and do that. He's 13 years old or 12 years old.
Right.
You see? Now, my cousin came on, and what was good about that show is I was happy that he came on because he told his story.
Wow.
And I was able to witness his story because
Mm.
I had seen it done to him twice. And it was crazy because his father, I remember when I was, we were sleeping, and his father came in the room and he was touching them. Now, but let me tell you what's crazy. He never ever laid hands on me, so I must have had a spirit with me back then, because
Yeah.
he ain't never touched me.
Right.
But I woke up out of the bed. He tried to shut my mouth and tell me, "Oh, shh." I said, "No. What are you doing to him?" Right? So this had been going on for years. He did it to his daughter, right? But I bring that up because I want you to hear the story behind that.
Right.
So he came on the show, he told the story, and he told everybody, I never wanted to be gay, but I had a very, very promiscuous spirit on me, right? But the backstory behind it, his father came from a family where his mother would pay him, would pay people to come in and watch her children have sex with animals, right? So now, let me tell you something, my brother. I always like to say, why? Why did this happen? Well, there's a story behind the story.
Oh
And
yeah.
a lot of times when people are molested, those people don't understand those are actually spirits that are passed on to that next person. Okay. Now,
Mm.
the mother would make them, people would pay from wherever the little town they was up, I think it was up in Boston,
Mhm.
and would pay people to come watch her children have sex with dogs. Right. So when I found out the story, I said, no wonder he was the way he was. Right?
Mm.
Now the difference with that is the only problem he was trying to have sex with, he actually had sex with his own daughter. So he was doing stuff to them ever since they were little. I witnessed it twice. And I was blessed enough to have a father that didn't play that. And when I told him, he did go, and I'm gonna be honest with you, he whooped his behind. Because he didn't touch me. He never touched me, but he was like, did he? I said, nah, he didn't touch me, but he still whooped him anyway. Okay. Now, but do you see how,
Yeah.
because he was brainwashed and programmed and used as a vessel, he was also a victim too.
Yep.
You see? But his
Mhm.
was worse because he had to have sex with animals. And people were actually paying to see that. His sister actually told the whole story.
Mm.
So, but you see, and that was back in the 60s. Okay? 60s. Now, what we got to realize, that type of trauma, it could be very, very bad. As we know, people have been affected by molestation in many different ways. Okay? And it's sad because they don't understand to what depth, or in what depth that these things affect an individual. Okay? And like we said, you become promiscuous, you become, gay, you
Yeah.
don't want to be bothered with men or women. So that's a heavy trauma within itself.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of healing that must take place. And one of the things about that right there, too, my brother, let me tell you this. You know, back in the day, in the 60s, if it was hush hush, shh, don't say nothing. Don't tell this one, don't tell.
Yep.
No.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you had a lot of black men up until the last couple of years ago that say, hey, I'm gonna say it because and let me tell you another thing. Majority of the men that I was doing readings for that came on the show, there was a few select that was touched by women, but some of them was touched by cousins, uncles, men, not women. Right? So now you gotta ask yourself, the question again, why is it that most of these men was touched by other men? So then you go back to the generation, you find out, well, Uncle Johnny used to drink and he was a drunk, and Uncle Johnny would go over there and he would come in the room at night and do stuff or make little Peter come do this or do that. You understand what I'm saying? So it's a heavy trauma that must be cleansed and washed in the melanated community. Okay.
Yeah, that's deep, and I'm gonna tell you, like, that's deep, and so I have taken on a project as pretty much a project manager, right, where I'm working with the youth in a full-time capacity, and part of the program that I'm involved with, we bring in speakers to speak to them who have been in prison, who have done major time for all various types of crimes, but trying our best to derail them, from going off the tracks completely to either going to prison or, the worst where that could be is the cemetery. So it's like, that's where, I take pride in this work. And it's like, I wrote a book, Young Kings, like 5 years ago, and it never got the light, of like it should have, because it came out during COVID. I say all that to say that 5 years later, this opportunity presented itself for me to really bring that whole entire project to life, and to actualize all the things that were in it with this program with the youth. But when one of the speakers came in just this past week, I think it was Thursday, and he spoke about his childhood, and he did a life sentence. I can't remember if it was 29, 30 years he did for first degree murder, but he spoke about it because he said, growing up, his mother only dated dudes who were alcoholics, drug addicts, and very abusive. And then when she got married, the stepfather would beat the brakes off of him and the mother. And so when he got to school, he would get bullied at school. So he was like, I remember one day I snapped. He said, enough is enough. He said he snapped. And he said this kid was messing with him. He said he stole on the dude and started smashing him. He said he beat him down, got kicked out of school for like 3 days. He said as soon as he came back to school, he beat down his homeboy who was with him the next when he got back to school. And it reminded me, I don't know if you saw the movie The Joker, but it reminded me, that was a phenomenal movie, but it reminded me of The Joker because in The Joker, he was getting bullied and abused too. And then one of his coworkers gave him a pistol. And when he got that pistol, he was getting jumped at the train station by these kids. And he messed around and popped one of them. And then from there, it's like he felt that energy, and it did something to him. It woke up a monster in him. And then he just started fighting people. But this dude, it was a very similar situation. So he got beat up at home, got abused and beat up at home, went to school, got bullied. So then he snapped. He spazzed on the dude, beat the brakes off of one, then came back, beat the brakes off another. Then he got a pistol. And so at that point, he was like, yeah, things started changing because people started putting respect on my name at that point. So then he got involved in the streets. And he said he got into a situation with a dude and he just let loose. He said he blew his face off. So he said he did that because he got tired of dealing with taking so much pain. And the first time that he was able to unload and release that fury on somebody else, it felt good because he got the opportunity to put somebody else in pain. And I say all that to say that I feel like that's what we are dealing with as a people culturally, not just Black people, melanated people, but I mean as a human race people. But unfortunately, with us in our community, we're dealing with it 2 and 3-fold because of specifically what we're talking about right now. And a lot of us aren't getting the help. A lot of us aren't seeing anybody. And a lot of us aren't telling our stories about these things that are happening. So where do we go in regards to you being somebody from the inside, battling on the front lines with this, this disease that we're dealing with trauma? Where do we go?
We just have to continue. We have to continue to keep working with him. I still work with young brothers. I had one young brother, and this is a little bit of a sad story because he was locked up, and he broke down on the phone to me, and he made me cry because he was crying. He said, I never told nobody this, but he said he was in a foster home, and he said that the foster father sodomized him so bad that when he went to the hospital, his anus was bleeding. And he broke down crying. He said, I never told nobody that. And he said, I'm so afraid. But he acted out because of that, right? But he never told nobody. So I guess spirit led him to tell me. And he cried like a baby. And I felt so bad. All I could do really was heal him for him because he was in jail. But when he told me the story, you know how you just see stuff in your mind? And when I seen it, I was so disgusted. I was just angry. And it was one of our own, okay? And it made me very angry. But to get away from that story, let's go back to where it all started. We didn't know nothing about porno. They don't watch porno in Africa, do they?
Started on the plantation.
Right. Start at the plantation, which is a trauma within itself because of all the things you've seen the men and the women molested at that plantation.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen the children molested at that plantation. So with saying that, that's where that subconscious comes in, where you're so brainwashed and programmed, and it stays in your subconscious mind, all of these things you went through. And it's like a sort of like a learned behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it also appears to become something that is almost natural. And natural to the point where it's okay. Hush, hush, don't say nothing. You understand? But no, it's not okay.
Yeah.
You understand? We got to rectify the problem.
Yeah.
And until we do, it will continue. But we need more shows like yours. We need more shows like where we were doing before, where we're talking about it. You have to talk about it.
Yep.
Because otherwise, and what I do know from doing a lot of spiritual work, people that carry this spirit on it, it's like being possessed with a demon. I tell people all the time when I'm talking to somebody who's dealt with molestation, how did you feel? I didn't want to do it, but then the spirit came over and said it feels good. You got me? So that's that spirit. It's like being possessed with a demon. That spirit's telling you, yeah, do it, because it feels good to do it. You know what I'm saying? But you really don't want to do it. But because that spirit takes over your body, then what happens is now you want to always feel like you got to have sex. So you become very promiscuous. Or you might want to touch another child. And people don't understand the seriousness of this when we say spirit. You're becoming possessed with a spirit that's a lust spirit or a rape spirit or whatever you want to call it spirit, okay? That is attracted to that type of energy. So when someone molests a child, they're putting that spirit on that child, okay? And that child, that spirit staying in, depending on how long they've been molested, because some of the people I had, some of the clients I had, they was being molested for years. I had a young sister, she was 13 years old. Her mother's husband was molesting her. 13 years, had her first baby at 14. And what's crazy is when she got pregnant, the mother took her to the hospital and told her, if you say anything to anybody, I'm going to kill you. Her own mother. I'm going to kill you. And made her have the baby. But then 16 years later, that baby blew his head off in the front porch of her mother's yard and in front of the stepfather because he found out that was his daddy. Blew his own head off. You see? So this stuff is serious and we need to take it serious and we have a lot of work to do. Now, I will say this. We got to stop putting it off because it still exists because I still get clients that deal with that.
Oh, yeah. 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 I deal with it. I mean, I see it in divination. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's why I hesitated on going in it because I ain't gonna lie, it does something to me where it almost wants to pull me out of me being a child of a ruler and a child of God.
Oh, I know what you're saying because you want to go hurt somebody. Right. You want to go hurt somebody. Trust me, I know. I want to hurt somebody. Okay.
Listen. So but I know it's needed and I know it's a conversation that's needed. And that's why I did want to go there because I like to take challenges head on and just, deal with them. Like swear, 10 toes down, let's get it. So that's why I did want to like not, letting the rage, be invoked in me. I said, nah, let's just get it. But because I know there are people who deal with this in silence, and I know that there are people who deal with this in isolation, and they're dealing with everything that you're breaking down for us, and they're dealing with it by themselves. And that's where it really is a problem. And that's why I felt like we definitely needed to, address these things because Ashe is about, a tribal, healing.
That's right.
and education and empowerment, for the whole tribe. So it's like we want to hit all things relevant to us growing, healing, and and empowering each other. So that's why I definitely look forward for this conversation. So now, how does this play into the relationships? Because like you said, that one where you said the mother, was she threatened the daughter, right? So now I know that plays a major role in how relationships unfold between mother and father, between mother and son and father and son, et cetera, et cetera. And even like relationships with brothers and sisters, or sisters and brothers, or you know what I mean, or girlfriend. Like every one of those relationships that are sacred to the human being race, like human race, is affected by someone who deals with this trauma. And so since so many of us deal with this trauma, how does that, like, how do we deal with that trauma in our relationships? You know what I'm saying? Whether it's with our children, whether it's with our significant others, whether it's with, coworkers, business partner, whatever, because it comes up and it surfaces at some point in time. Some people probably don't even know where it's coming from.
Well, I get a lot of that too. You have sisters that may not want to be sexually active with their husband because if they've been traumatized sexually. So it's something that needs to be discussed, because we have to remember, I will say this, when I call them one-ships. I don't like calling them relationships because I feel like, that's me personally, y'all, that it's cursed, because we means again. So I call them one-ships. So when they are in their one-ships and they become one, whether they get married or not, there's some unsolved traumas that they need to deal with, such as, situations like that, because they don't understand. You must balance each other out physically, spiritually, mentally, and sexually. That's very important. You understand? So a lot of times I'll get the complaints when I'm doing the reading to brothers to say, well, she didn't she don't want to have sex with me, and I need to have sex, and then and I'll be like, well, what happened to her? Because a lot of times I could see, I'll be like, well, I see that she was molested with you, and then it's a matter of making sure that they get spiritual counseling before you even get married, right? Because what I've learned, as as many of these calls I've done, is that they never get no counseling before marriage, right? And those things have to be discussed. Do you have anything in your past, that you want to talk about before you marry this man or woman? Is there anything that, you may be, having problems with? Because we do need individual healing.
Right.
And a lot of times we don't. Well, I'm going to say this. Black people, a lot of times, most of us don't believe in getting therapy or counseling. Okay? Because we think we know. Because we think we know, and then sometimes we don't know. Okay?
And it's a stigmatism too. Like it's labeled, like, I don't know where the hell that came from, but it has like this negative stigma to it. I'm like, I feel like, dude, everybody needs help. I know I do.
That's
I
right.
need therapy.
That's
I'm
right.
gonna come out. I know I do, because what I got voices.
Yeah.
They be ready to go. So
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I know you.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's a symphony going on in your head too. But
I had,
shoot.
But see, I was blessed because I had 3 mothers. My godmother, she was like, "Oh, you going to counseling?" She put me in counseling. This is my real, not in the religious godmother, my real,
Right. I got
So she
familiar.
was like, "You going to counseling?" Because I had been through some trauma with my dad not being there and stuff like that. And him being away. Can you take some water, please? And so I had to go to counseling. I was thankful she did, because it helped me. Okay. So, I'm not afraid to tell people, yeah, you doggone right, I had to get counseling, because I had an anger issue, right? I had a very bad anger issue, so I had to go to counseling, and I did. So I was thankful for that. But a lot of times, we think we don't, but you don't know everything.
Nobody.
We will leave this world not knowing everything. Okay. And we got to understand that it's okay. A lot of Black people, and I'm not even gonna get mad at my people, because I noticed that what happens is, because it's a learned behavior, as I say, that programming and brainwashing. No, you don't talk about that. We're strong. We're this. We're that. You understand? So it's basically you're taught how to, not talk about those things. And right, excusing and bottle it up. No, don't do that, because when you do break and when you do explode, it's not nice.
Right. Pressure bust pipes.
Well, but we're talking about to the point where you have some people who have committed suicide because they couldn't deal with it. I'll give you a perfect example. I call her my sister. You know how we do in Africa, but she's really my cousin. We grew up together, right? And I remember we seen all the same things. We seen drugs. We see all that. Growing up in New York, you see all of that. So she started using heroin. And I asked her, why do you use drugs? Because I was always trying to save her,
Right.
right? She said, I can't deal with the pain.
Mm.
And the pain was that the same guy who I told you about earlier that was molesting his own kids
Mhm.
raped her at 5 years old and was having sex with her every night at 5 years old. So when she told me that, and I said, Kim, her name is Kim. I said, so is that why you got? She goes, you don't understand. I just every night I'm having nightmares about it. He used to hold her mouth and told her she told he was gonna kill her and kill the whole house.
Mm.
And at that point, I had to sit back and I had to say, my sister, my poor sister. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
all I could do was just hold her. But let me
Mm.
tell you how bad it was that she couldn't deal with that nightmare. She died in 2003 of overdose. Now, she voluntarily gave me her children to raise. I had her son from 18 months and I had her daughter from 4 years old. They're 28 and 27 now.
Mm.
But that's how bad that nightmare and that trauma was to her soul. She ended up overdosing.
Mm.
You see how it's important for us to get that proper help? Now,
Yeah.
some souls are weaker than others.
Yeah.
But all I have to say is that we as a community have to continue to work together. We're so busy, and I'm not being funny. I got to throw this in there, y'all. We're so busy fighting each other with spirituality. Take that same power and use it to heal our communities. You
Yeah.
understand? You doing work to do this one and fight this one. Take that
Yeah.
power and heal your communities. Stop
Yeah.
fighting each other. Look, we got a young boy right now. He was protecting his mother, and we got a call today. Protecting his mother because the man was beating her up. He comes out, so he sees his mother run out the house with blood in her mouth. He shoots him in the chest. Was he not supposed to? Right? What was he supposed to do? So here you got a man, a boy child seeing his mother beat up or by a man. We have a lot of healing to do in the community still.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Oh
will
yeah.
say this. There's a communication gap, a huge communication gap between our people.
Yes.
Again, if
Yeah.
you're white and if you're white and you're listening, nothing against y'all, but this is a community thing. But we
Mm-hmm.
do know that some of y'all are trauma too, because I do got white clients that been, believe it or not, they're the same things.
Oh
You
yeah.
don't hear you hear their stories very rare because they go to their own people. But saying that between the programming and the brainwashing and the communication gap, it's a lot of work that we have to do, and I still think it could be done, but more of us have to help do it of
Yes.
healing our people.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Now let's talk about the communication gap between black men and black women.
Mm. Oof. Listen, before we go into that, because I know that might take the rest of the show. Before
Uh-huh.
we go into that, how significant is the impact of drug and alcoholism and abuse because of people who want to numb the pain of the trauma? Because that's what I'm saying. Trauma is a very, 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 very intricate piece to a lot of the BS that goes on, globally. Like, you know
Right,
what I mean? So
right,
it's like, and like I said,
right.
and like you were saying, a lot of it is subconscious. So even for
Yep.
people who, let's just say, weren't even molested, just the fact that they were probably raised by someone who possibly could have been or was, they're still a beneficiary, unfortunately, of that trauma,
Of
because
that trauma. Yep.
that's going to be anger, resentment. There's so many other
Yep.
attributes that come into play from the pain that is, from that trauma.
Right,
So,
right.
how heavily, like, I know it plays a major role. So, like, where do we go with that? Like, because I know the alcoholism, drug abuse, all those things are a lot of, I feel like, coping mechanisms for people who are dealing with this trauma.
Yeah, and that's very true. A lot of our people have got caught up in that drug and alcohol
Yeah.
situation where because they try to deal with it. And that's very huge in the community too.
Yeah, or
Okay.
even overeating, obesity, because
Right,
some
overeating.
people deal with the trauma with eating. You know what I mean? So
Right,
it contributes to a lot of detrimental behavior.
right. Unfortunately, what's sad about it is that no, what I will say is, as much as I've worked with the youth over the years, I'm watching this generation, they're a little bit different than the last generation.
Very different.
And in the 70s they had the heroin, and in
Yeah.
the 80s they had the, crack and the cocaine. You know what I mean? This generation, they're just weed heads, okay? And I'm
Mhm.
so happy that they're just weed heads,
Mhm.
So a lot of this generation, we call what the Gen Z, whatever they call them,
Can't
Gen
keep up
Z,
with all that. Yeah, I think that
right? Yeah, Gen Z. This generation is not there,
mm,
and I'm happy because it's sort of dwindling away, and I think
mm,
it's happening spiritually and naturally. Okay,
mm,
but for
mhm,
the most part, we still have it. You
mm.
still see alcoholics. You still see people on drugs.
Yeah,
Okay, um, I'm going to say this. You know, that's something that's beyond our control because we didn't put the drugs in the community,
right.
right?
Hmm.
We didn't put the liquor stores down the street,
No.
right? But the part that is our fault because and a lot of people gonna say, well, you have no control. I feel like there's a certain control that we have,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So if I seen drugs, my sister, I never touched drugs a day in my life. Never did none of that. Never drank. I don't like alcohol. Never tried no hard drugs. I tried weed, of course, once or twice, but I don't even like that. So
Mm.
the point is, I just seen what it did to my people. So
Yes.
let me put it this way. What I say to people is that with my sister, she just was a little bit more of a weaker soul, right?
Mm.
And then she couldn't deal with it. So
Right.
I couldn't judge her
Right.
because I was a little bit more of a stronger, so I wasn't having it. You
Right.
see, where
Hmm.
she couldn't deal with it because actually in her situation it was a little bit more because she had been raped several
Mm.
times. So
Mm.
hers it was more of the fact that she couldn't deal with the pain. She was having nightmares. So
Yeah.
that drug for the moment did what it did for her.
Yeah.
Who am I to say it didn't help her? And if it helped her, unfortunately, we could have probably found something more natural or
Yeah.
something, but she wasn't always in my presence. So,
Right.
I mean, I feel like we could have probably done something more natural for her opposed to the hard drugs. Um, we have to address that too.
Right.
Okay. And that means we got to come back to our community. We got to
Yep.
talk to them about it. You got to, having like it's good that y'all are speaking to these young men,
Mm.
it's good that they see that we can be role models for them and they have their own to talk to, right?
Yes.
Because
Hmm.
we know about it. We've been in that generation where there was crack and cocaine. We know about that. So I think it's a matter of us making sure we continue to educate them on the
Right.
masses. Okay,
Hmm.
if you in California, you work with the youth there. You
Yep.
working with the ones. I work with the ones. So I think it's very important that we continue to because the liquor stores are still in the community,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Now, you don't see as many of our people. It's very rare that you see somebody on crack nowadays.
Yeah. It's crazy. As you were saying, I was thinking like, damn, I don't remember hearing like nothing about
Right.
crack like that lately. For real, it's
No.
like fentanyl and all the
Right.
like pill popping, all that stuff is what I'm hearing about now. But
Right.
you're right, I don't
Right.
remember hearing too much about crack like that no
You don't hear too much about crack.
more. Yeah.
Now, fentanyl, yeah, because we just lost, as a matter of fact, I call my niece and nephew, the one I just told you about that died,
Hmm.
their father, they found him on a bench in New York, slumped over because he overdosed on fentanyl. He didn't know. They gave him bad fentanyl. So he ended up dying. So both of these kids, now look, both of them have lost their parents to overdose on drugs. So I want to share this because I had to deal with that. Right? Now she voluntarily gave me because I've had them from when they were younger. They're 29 and 27 now.
Hmm.
And it was a blessing because of course they're my blood. So I raised them. So they never was exposed to any of that.
Hmm.
Right? So that's the blessing within itself. But when it happened, I had to sit down and talk with them. How do you feel?
Hmm.
How do
Yeah.
you feel? Because now both of these children who never really Paul is 27. So
Hmm.
he never really knew his mother. I got him when he was 18 months old. So
Hmm.
he knew me as his mother. But I never kept that from him. So my thing is how do you feel? Because that's something that even though you wasn't raised by her, that's
Right.
still your DNA. You
Right.
wasn't raised by him. Now he got to spend time with his father. So he cried like a baby when they found him. He cried like a baby. And this was just last year.
Right.
So I had to consult, I had to talk with him and get into his soul, how he felt about that because it hurt him. It hurt him to the point. Now watch this. They never see me drink, and they'll tell you. But he got drunk so bad he fell out in front of the hotel and they had to call the ambulance to get him. And I was mad at him, but then I understood, right? And then I had to tell him and sisters, y'all never seen me drink. Y'all never seen nobody drunk in our house. We never argued because it was just me at that time and the 4 kids, right? But I had to realize, now watch this. Remember we talked about generation. Why do both of them like to drink now? Now they don't get drunk like that, but he got drunk when his father died. But I had to think, well, their grandmother drank. They used to drink every week and they would get drunk. Now my cousin's sister, she never drinks. She just did drugs. She didn't like alcohol. But both of them, one drinks wine and one drinks, he likes to drink beer, so he gets a little bit drunk. But I had to get on him and tell him, no, we ain't doing that.
Mm.
Right? And then I start saying, well, they never see me do that. Where y'all get that from? So I start talking to them. Then I
Right.
thought about it. Is it generational? Because your father was an alcoholic. And he was alcoholic. He did everything. Heroin, crack. He did it all. So I had to say, well, and y'all never was exposed to that. So why did you feel the need to drink? You see
Right.
how it's like, okay, is it in your DNA? Because I don't believe it's in your DNA. So where does that trauma come from where you feel like you have to drink like that? Right?
I believe it is in the DNA.
You think
I
so?
do.
Okay.
Respectfully, yeah, I
Okay.
do. I actually,
Okay.
I'm very confident because I've seen it, you know, in families. I've seen it in my own family. You know what I mean? I've seen
Okay.
it not just in
Okay.
my own family, but I've seen it in great, good friends of mine, people who I'm very
Mm-hmm.
close with. I've seen it in their families. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
clients, you know what I mean, that I work with, I've seen it, you know, in their families. So, and I'll tell you what, because to try to paint a picture, metaphorically speaking, if you think about women, and I know for a fact you've dealt with this because you've been doing this longer than me, and I know I've dealt with it. But if you think about women who have children very young, at like 14, 15, 16 years old,
Mm-hmm.
think about the percentage of how many of them have children, their children have children at that same age or even younger. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, I know several people who have had a child at 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, and then they were grandparents by the time they were 30.
30.
You know what I'm saying? And
Uh-huh.
then it's a cyclical thing. So I think with the alcohol and the drugs, I really do feel like some people it is, you know, in the bloodline and in genetics, you know,
So
because you know,
do you think it's more of like a okay, because that's what they know, that's what they seen, right? So could it be that subconscious mind? And I like to say your eyes are like video recorders, right? And everything
yes,
you see outside of yourself, you do. Because I
yes,
asked the question one time, I said, "What do you know that nobody else knows?"
yes,
Nobody can answer that question because
mm,
everything you know, you've seen from another man outside of yourself, right?
yeah, yeah,
So, with saying that, do you think it's a possibility because it's a scene, it's seen constantly? You understand? It's seen
yeah,
because my mother had my sister at 15, my
mhm,
sister had her son at 16, my grandmother had my mother at 16. I was the only one who had the baby at 18, you know. But the
yep.
point is it because that's what we see and that's what we know, and that was programmed in our subconscious mind? It's okay. It's all right. Oh, it's okay to have sex at 15 and 14. You understand? Is it something that you think that could have been like programmed in our mind?
I think I think it would be more from the genetic standpoint, but I believe it's both. I believe it's definitely what's been programmed because, like you said earlier,
Mm-hmm,
subconsciously we pick up on a lot of things. For example, I'm looking at you through the screen, but
mm-hmm,
my subconscious mind, and I just thought about, or it just happened as I'm saying, is I can see your ceiling fan spinning in that room. So
mm-hmm,
consciously, I'm paying attention to that ceiling fan. I'm looking at you in the comments from from the people who are communicating in
mm-hmm.
the channel, but subconsciously that picked that up. It picked up that ceiling fan world. And you know what I mean? Which
Right, right,
I didn't calculate. I didn't intentionally say, oh, I'm gonna look at her ceiling fan world. You know what I
right,
mean? But
right,
I
right,
feel like I think it really could be both. I believe it is genetic where it's in our bloodline genetically, like epigenetics and all that stuff. But
right,
I definitely agree with you that I do believe it's programming too. I believe it's what we see, even from like an
right,
infant. You know what I mean? Because we store all our memories are there, whether we can pull them out
right,
or not. They're there. You know what I mean? So
right.
I think it's both. I think it's both.
And and you think about this too. It's like I tell people all the time. Let me say this still as much. It's sort of like with disease. Now I had a argument when I brought my older brother. He's a biomedical engineer, right?
Mhm,
So I actually was into the medical field. Well, I was a PA.
mhm,
So we argued. He said, "Well, oh," he said, "Well, it's in the genetics, diabetes, high blood pressure." And I said, "No, it's not." He said,
mm,
"Yes, it is." I said, "Well, let's go to China. Let's go to
mm,
China and see how many people in China smoke. How much do they get cancer? Right?
mm.
How much do Chinese people have high blood pressure, diabetes? Right? So
Yep.
we would debate about that. I said it's not in your DNA. I said, because I can turn around and change my diet and then I won't have no diabetes, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times, well, of course we know here is with the food, most of the food we eat, the
Yes.
diet, the lack of, there's a lot more that goes with that. But to say that, I'm just saying, do we really think it's an idea? Did they, have a way of just coming in there and putting stuff in our brains and our minds? You understand? And when I
Mhm.
say that, how do you know that's a fan? What if that's not a fan? You only think you watch this. You only think it's a fan because it's moving, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
suppose that's something else. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So it's in our subconscious mind. It's already embedded in there
Yeah.
because you know of a fan that spins around,
Right.
right? But guess what? It might not be a fan. No, not for real, joking around. But I'm saying it's really a fan, but it might
Right.
not be. So
No,
yeah,
that's real because it's programming. It literally is. Because
right,
when we're born like a blank canvas, a clean slate. You know what I mean?
right,
And then from
right,
there, the environment that we were raised in start brushing on the canvas. It just starts
exactly.
brushing away. So now, as you were saying, what you were saying about how you and your brother will argue or debate about it or whatever, in my mind, I agree with both of y'all, but at the same time, I feel like I lean more towards what you were saying based upon the fact that I feel like it's habit. It is
Yeah,
habitual habit. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
That we're passing that down, especially when you talk about the diet and diabetes, and that is definitely habitual. You know what I'm saying? Because the
yep,
minute you change your diet, that's when you can change and heal, a lot of your physical ailments because the diet is
exactly.
an important part of that. And hell, even mentally or emotionally or spiritually, because our spiritual diets play a major role in how,
Maybe,
how we
yeah,
vibrate, how our frequency,
yep,
our energy levels are. So it's
yep.
like all that is relative for sure.
It was relative. I wanted to bring up another point too, and I keep forgetting what was I going to say again? Oh, what was it? I thought I lost my train of thought. It was something with black men and black women.
That was my fault because I wanted to ask about the other stuff because I knew once we got on that, I don't think we probably get off of it.
Yeah, yeah. No,
So,
it's okay. It's that communication gap.
yeah.
Now, let's go back. I want to share this because years ago, now growing up in New York, I seen the hugest, signs you could ever see, the billboards all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm driving downtown Atlanta, and I look up at the sign. It says "Black woman and the family,"
Mm,
and then the next day, the black man.
mm,
I said,
mm.
So, so that made me mad.
Yeah.
What are you
Oh
saying?
yeah.
My black man is not worthy of being part of the black family. Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
You know, I'm saying this to myself as I'm
But that's
driving.
what they
Though,
were saying too. That's what they were
yeah,
saying.
right. So
Mm.
of course, I got to run home. I'm gonna do a show about it now because I'm gonna talk about it, y'all.
Yes.
I'm about to talk about this because I don't like it, and
Yes.
it was on CNN.
Wow.
So, are you saying that my black man is not worthy of being part of the black family? You see, so going back to that, there was a communication gap put in place between the black man and the black family, as I talked about earlier. That subliminal contract that says the black man is not worthy enough to take care of his family,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Here, black woman, we're gonna give you all this, but he ain't worthy of it, right?
Yeah.
So now we have this communication gap. Now let's go back to the relationship part.
Yes.
I do spiritual counseling. I've been doing with spiritual counseling for years. So I do spiritual counseling with couples
Mm-hmm.
and actually been very successful. Okay.
Gotcha.
And one of the things we don't know how to do is because of some of our past traumas or our traumas, and because of learned behaviors or because of subliminal contracts that are put into the community, right? We don't know how to communicate with each other.
Mm-hmm.
We ain't got respect for each other.
Yeah.
We don't have respect, and that's the biggest thing. So when I'm dealing with these couples and I'm talking to them, I hear them yelling. I had a couple couples that arguing in front of the kids. I said, "Wait, stop! Y'all got kids? Yeah, we got kids." I said, "What you teaching your children? Are you teaching your children how to disrespect a woman or a man? Because it
Mm-hmm.
goes both ways.
Oh yeah.
Because when you yelling at that man, my sister, you're teaching your daughter to disrespect that man who's her protector, right? Now, when you yelling at that woman, you're teaching her it's okay to have a man yell at her and talk to her anyway. So
Mm.
I would always hit them with that, especially if they had children.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
And that again is another learned behavior, brainwashing program.
Mm.
It's history's time
Yeah.
because there's so much that's been put in the community. And They go it works on both parts. I mean, sisters used to get mad at me years ago because I would tell them it starts with the woman because we have the strength, right? But at the end of the day, both men and women, right? We got to understand. One of the things I will say about our black men, and I tell sisters all the time, they have been called everything but men.
Mm.
They have been called niggas. They have been called everything but men. So when you have our men, our brothers that walk around the community and they have been told that they ain't nothing, they can't protect you, they can't do nothing for you, right? How do you think they're going to react?
Mm.
And that's trauma within itself with just a black man,
Oh yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Now let's come back to my sisters. You understand? With that same brainwashing and programming mechanism, black men ain't shit. Excuse my language, y'all.
No, you good.
Right? And that's what you hear growing up. Black
Oh
men
yeah.
ain't shit. And this
Yeah.
and that, and this and that, right? So
Yeah.
now you got the woman who's programmed and brainwashed. And then it passes on to generation to generation to generation.
Yep.
And then you have that communication gap and wondering why. And I'm going to say this and I want to make it clear. I don't give a damn what them statistics show. Because there are a lot of successful black marriages.
Oh
They
yeah.
ain't going to show you because that's
Right.
their TV. But
Right.
there's a lot.
Oh
Because
yeah.
working in the community, I see a lot.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And
But
black fathers in their children's lives. That's something I'm extremely proud of to see. Like my whole
that's right.
generation, before my generation, because a lot of us didn't have that. But my generation,
Now, yeah.
80s babies not, I am extremely proud of that. I know a
Oh,
ton of
yeah.
brothers doing their thing with their children.
Sure. I know some single brothers that ain't got women around. I know a
I know
few
a
of
few
them.
too. Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. So I'm extremely proud of that fact. I know that's a fact for sure.
Well, one of the things I do say, and I can speak on this because, I love to ground my black men walking. One of the things I can say, black men are very emotional too. Don't get it
Yes.
confused. I've
Yes.
seen a lot of their brothers. I love my babies, hold them, kiss them. They're just as emotional as the women. But
Yeah.
because some of these sisters have been programmed to think that they ain't shit, of course they're going, but I know a lot of black men that love their children just as much as their mothers do,
Yeah.
right?
Listen.
That same nurturing they got for their children.
Yes. But let me tell you though, where I feel like how profound this conversation is. I'm going to put myself out there and share a little bit of my story. I didn't. There's two things I can't wait to share, but one of them is that I never knew how to love myself until I hit rock bottom in my life, and that was
Mm,
literally what made me write my first book, Tips: Taking Initiative, Producing Success: How to
mhm,
Transform Adversity to Prosperity. Because it took for me to hit rock bottom in life and going through divorce and all kind of other crazy things that is like, damn, I never knew how to love myself. That's when I learned self-love, like being at the rock bottom part of my life. I was never suicidal, but I felt like my life was so fucked up that if it would have ended, I wouldn't have cared. I never thought about
wow,
taking my life, but that's
wow,
just how dark of a
right,
place I was in. So I
right,
know for a fact in my own journey, I never knew how to love myself. So it was like, damn, that's when I started really loving myself and like really like appreciating myself. And it wasn't about not having confidence, because I've always been a confident person. I've always had
wow,
courage and a lot of those things, but I just didn't know that I did not know how to love myself. And then I started
wow.
reflecting, like, damn, if you don't know how to love yourself, how you gonna love somebody else? You can't
That's
give
right,
what you ain't got. You can't pour into something with you don't have nothing to pour. You know what I'm
right.
saying? So it's like that's where I really did a lot of deep diving and reflection, and that's part of who and what I, was blessed to be able to evolve into, to do these types of things in the community, and even for Ashe, because it took
Hmm.
learning how deep
Right.
this goes, you know what I'm saying, and how we're not taught these things or equipped with these things, and we got to figure it out on
Hmm.
our own. So now then we have
Right.
our children. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? That
Right.
you
Right.
know what I mean? We can't keep
So
pushing that on.
the question I got for you is, why didn't you love yourself? Now because this is me and my grandkids will tell you, they always say, why is why, Nana? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you love yourself? So what happened in your life to make you not love yourself? How did you grow up? Was your dad there? Was your mother there? You know what I mean? So you
Yeah.
have to ask your question, why didn't you have love for yourself?
Yeah, well, that's where the book came in, and that's how I learned all that, because literally that question you just asked me, I was asking myself that. So then I had to time travel back into those times, the childhood,
Hmm.
and that's
Hmm.
where it started. Because I used to fight a lot. I used to fight a lot. I used to get I used to get a lot of scuffles and stuff because of the pain. And just like the
Right.
story I shared with the dude earlier, who did the
Hmm.
time, that's where I was. But see, I didn't know it in
Hmm.
those moments. I didn't know where that pain that aggression, that rage. I didn't know where that stemmed from until I wrote that book, because when I wrote the book, I had to sit there and really think about my whole life's trajectory and how everything unfolded in phases. And they say everything is a cycle of like seven phases,
right?
7 to 14, from 0 to 7, from 7 to 14, 14. You know what I mean? So that's how I started looking at it, and it all started to make perfect sense, because the trauma from not having my dad for a good portion, of my childhood, like that was where a lot of mine stemmed from. But then also I looked at a lot of other things that took place that kind of contributed to it too. So when I learned that, that's what made me really do a real deep dive into research and like how to heal. I started studying emotional intelligence. I got way deeper with spirituality. So I found a stronger connection with God. So all those things led to me wanting to be more and also to do more, because I wanted to help other people not feel or be in the situation I was in. So that's where that came from. And then one of the things that I think about now is, like, I look at people and I look at like you said, there's always a story behind the story. So I'll never forget, I was watching a video with the brother Nuri Muhammad, and he was talking about some of the stuff you were saying about relationships. But one of the things that I love that he said, and I've realized this through my own journey, is when you get with someone who you think that might be the one, or you want to take it to the all the way to the next level, to be in that what do you call that, one ship? I like that.
Ship, yeah.
Well, I take it to be into the one ship. You want to do research on them. You want to find out their parents' history. You want to find out their grandparents. You want to find out as much as you can about at least 2 to 3 generations of that person's familial history, so you know what you're walking into, you know what I mean, and what they're bringing to the table. That's something I never even thought about considering. And when he said that, I was like, yeah, he's spot on, because I saw how my personal reflections in my life kind of, if I would have known just that one thing, it could have changed so many different dynamics and situations with how I selected the person to enter a one-ship with. You know what I mean? So it's like, these are the things I'm like, yeah, this there's a lot to this that we do need to talk about, and we do need to share, and educate our people with.
Well, I'm gonna say this. My father, I was his only daughter, and I had a different, for my brothers and sisters, right? And my father, he started out, he started out as a big time drug dealer in Brooklyn. Right, back in their days, he was big time, and then he became his own best customer. And what's crazy is, my mother never, ever, ever kept him away from me. She always made me close with the family and made sure I knew the family. But I used to be mad at my father. I had anger. That's where a lot of my anger came from. And I couldn't understand why he would promise me the world and wouldn't bring me the world, right? So as I got older, I remember my mother telling him, she said, the same child you don't take care of is the same child you're going to have to ask a glass of water from. And he literally had to come ask me for a glass of water and a place to stay, right? By this time, I was growing my own children. And I took care of my father. He ended up getting HIV. But what's crazy is I sat my father down. First, I cussed him out real bad. I had to cuss him out. And when I tell you I cussed him a new ass, and to the point he was crying like a baby. You hear what I'm saying? So my father was crying and he was bawling and snotting. And he said, why you? I said, you ain't. I told him this. I said, you would never give a damn about me. I said, you put drugs before me. I said, I was your only daughter. So I'm going off, right? So then something said, and I think in his spirit said, stop. Ask your father what his life was like when you're growing up. When he told me the story, my father said, do you know that my stepfather, he was a detective in Brooklyn at the time, he said he kicked him out of the house, literally kicked him down the stairs and told him to get out. My father's mother, I only met her twice in my life, she left him and went into a mental institution because he was highly spiritual too. Remember, I told you the African side just the spiritual, African American side. So he said, and he went to the streets. Now, what's crazy is he went to stay with my brothers and sisters' father. They all grew up in the same time. With their father in the garage, he let him stay in the garage. But what's crazy is he turned to the streets for love, as most of our young boys will tell you, right? So when he explained this, I said, well, what happened to your mother? Then I started asking questions because I knew my grandfather, his father, he had got married, living in Jersey with his kids and family and all that. So I said, wait a minute. I said, so you mean to tell me granddad didn't come get you? He said, no. So here you got a 14-year-old boy that got kicked out. His mother abandoned him. Now that nurturing is gone, right? So he turns to the street. becomes the first biggest drug dealer, then begins using it. So after that, at that moment when he told me that story, I stopped for a minute and I said, I'm so sorry. I said, I'm so sorry, Daddy. I said, I said, so your mother abandoned you. So a 14-year-old boy is running the streets of Brooklyn and you don't have nobody, right? So that's when I understood what you just said. I understood that he couldn't love me because he didn't love himself. You see? So I changed my whole dynamic, the way I dealt with him, right? From that point on, as my mother said, I'm going to take care of him. And I did. He had brain cancer. He got sick. I got him back healed. All that. I took care of him. The year before he died, he moved to North Carolina. And I went to see my daddy and I talked to him. That's the first time I ever felt like he was a father, right? Was saying that we was able to rekindle those things. But I understood. I had a better understanding that he didn't know how to love.
Right.
You said that, and because of that, he didn't know how to love this baby girl of his.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And that's another dynamic of it where we have to look at the serious things that go on in the community and how these things affect, because it affected me. I was angry because I see everybody with their daddy. I want my daddy too, right?
Yep. Yep.
So with saying that, it's a lot of work we have to do.
Yeah.
Still. Let's go back to the one ships. Now, I hear what the brother's saying, and what I usually recommend before you get in a one ship with anybody, right? Get a reading. Get a reading first.
Yeah.
Y'all, this is my grandbaby right here. He just came in. Say hi.
What's up, young king?
Say hi. Since 9. Did you win your game today? I'm sorry, y'all. Did you win your game?
Yes. I say, congratulations.
I say, he said, congratulations. He came here.
Yes, sir. That's what's up.
And we were battling intelligence. Okay. Battling so good that we didn't let them score at all. You did it? Yeah, because I'm on the show. And then we came back to 6. 5-6? Okay, good. We went to his game the other night, y'all. And his first time pitching. He plays baseball and he plays football.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
I played baseball, football too. Basketball too.
He plays. He does he does. I think the basketball at school sometime.
That's what's up.
He's so happy because the other day he did his hit, home run. You know what I mean? So yeah, we try to support.
Oh yeah, I remember that feeling. I remember when I played.
Yeah, that's one of the younger ones. But anyway, so I feel like back to the one chip now. It's good to get, because especially we're in the spiritual stuff. So it's good for us to get spiritual reading, get a divination, get an Ephra reading, whatever you call it. You need to get it before you get involved with anybody, man or woman, because a lot of times, again, you'll find out what they have been through. You know what I mean? Some people, as we used to say, always want to put on a mask. You know what I mean? And they'll put on this mask not knowing that they have not healed. They're hurting still inside, and they bring it over to you. They bring that baggage to you.
Yes. Yep.
And that's what happens.
And speaking of that and see where people can go with that, depending on how their upbringing was, that it can either encourage them to kind of be the same or motivate them to be totally the opposite. So for me, my situation with my pops, it motivated me to be totally the opposite, because he had his own battles he had to deal with. You know what I mean? Which kind of might be similar to your story a little bit, because there was some similarities in that. But we got back together like in 06, I think, and we've been best friends ever since. You know what I mean? Like, our relationship is phenomenal, because I'm grateful. I give thanks for it. But also the time that I didn't have him, when he was dealing with his fights and battles with life, I always vowed that if I ever had children, I would never let them feel how I felt. You know what I'm saying? So that was the way I kind of used my experience to flip the script and do my best to not do that. But at the same time, there's still a lot of other dynamics that play into that. But one of the things that I took pride in, especially like with my sons, when it didn't work out with their mom when I was single, is showing them the respect of not bringing other women around them. I never brought other women around them, even though they were young. Like we were talking about earlier, I know how that subconscious thing works, and I know how they retain things. So for me, as a man, I wanted to set the example of how to not only love yourself and carry yourself, try to carry yourself as a king, but also to show that same love and respect to the female or the woman that is in your life. So because I was single, I'm doing my thing, I'm dating, and I just doing my thing. I didn't want them around that. So I never introduced
Right.
them to anyone unless I knew she was going to be the one. So when I
Right.
did that, I actually introduced them and their mother to who is now my current wife, you know what I'm saying? Because I wanted everybody to know how I'm moving. So all, you know what I'm saying, all hands on
Right.
deck, you know what it
Right.
is. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Ain't no worrying or you know what I'm saying, questioning or
Right.
wondering about some other stuff. This is what it is, and everybody knows.
Right.
You know what I mean? So hopefully
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, they take that, you know what I mean, and then kind of build with however they move with grown, you know, with women when they're grown as well. But how do you feel like, for example, if there's someone who, because I've seen this before where there's like and it could go both ways, but like a person who didn't have their father in their life, right? And then their parents didn't have their father in their life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes on and on. But then when there is a family where you do have, you know, both parents, and then there's still like some sort of turmoil and things like that, do you feel like the experiences of parent, like people who have grown up, you know what I'm saying, without one parent, if they get with someone who has both and then they have children, do you think that that would, you know what I'm saying, play a role in the psyche? Because I know people who have been through that where, you
Yeah.
know, their relationship is strained based off of the trauma from their upbringing, you know what I mean, from
Right.
how they were brought up. So how do you
Right.
feel like that plays a role as well?
I think it plays a role as well, because
Mm,
you have one person who did not have the dynamic of having both parents in the home, and the
right.
other one does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, you had your father there, you had your mother. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which
Right.
is
Right.
kind of it's sad. It's sad, right?
Right.
But it can be it can be solved. Because that person needs some more counseling. Because
Yeah.
it probably affected her because she didn't have her father around. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Right.
I think it still can work, because I don't believe that. I don't like the word "can." I don't like that word, and I never allow my kids to use it in the house. We ain't saying we can't. We can do anything we want to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it can be solved if there's a level. Like I always recommend, even when I do spiritual readings, and I say, okay, well, she's the one, but I'm gonna recommend that y'all get some counseling
Right.
before you get real serious, right?
Right.
Because
Mm-hmm.
I might have seen that in her life, she did have some trauma, you had some trauma. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's important that we make sure that we actually, bring all that to the forefront. So
Right.
that's something later on down in your one ship, you don't have to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
Because you might understand, well, you know what? Because she didn't have her dad around, she's not used to taking authority,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or she doesn't, no, let me change that word. She's not
No, I
authority.
I I I I think that I believe you're on. I believe that's
You
the
think?
case, and not even
Okay,
necessarily authority, but having a
right. That's what I'm
strong
saying.
positive
Right,
male energy.
right.
You know what
That's
I'm
what I
saying?
mean. Right,
Because you got to have the balance, and that's why I feel
right,
like people, unfortunately, are people, and I've seen this growing up, man. Like I said, with so many friends, like that, it was a cycle because
right.
there was no balance. It was only a single mom with like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kids or children, and then those same 4, 5, 6 children have another 4, 5, 6 children, but
Six
then the
children.
father probably goes to jail, unfortunately gets murdered, or whatever, or they're just not
Mm-hmm.
together and he ain't doing nothing. And then, you know what I'm saying? And then just the cycle
Right.
just continues and continues and
Continue.
continues. So it's like I
But
do believe that, because if you think about it, and I'm not a Kevin Samuels fan. I'm not for or against him. I don't even know enough about him, but I know he made a
uh
huge splash, in the media world with, his
yeah, I
show.
remember.
And so it was like, but some of the things he was saying did have some truth to it, but I wasn't
Yeah,
necessarily a fan of his delivery, or I didn't know enough about him, so I won't even. But I'll
right,
just say this: that one of the things that he hit on that it blew a whole doggone mountaintop is the masculine energy that women are, saying, taking on as being someone who is like that has to wear the pants as a man. And a lot
right,
of women didn't like that, but I see a lot of women who did because they agreed with it, and those were the ones who I felt like didn't let ego play a part, and they reflected on it to see like, oh shit, that is me. I do that. Or, you know what I'm
right,
saying? So there's a lot of different dynamics that I feel like that do come into play when you talk about those things, because, like it goes back to like even like the self-love. You can't give what you don't have, or you don't know how to respond or react in an environment that you're not used to.
right. Well, let me share my story, because I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have a man
Mm-hmm.
when I was raising 4 kids by myself.
Mm-hmm.
I raised two of my biological and then my sister's kids,
Mm-hmm.
and I had one boy. Right
Mm-hmm.
now, there was no man around, because I didn't want no man around me while I was raising kids. I
Right.
just didn't have it until they got older. So no, they ain't see no man come in the house. We didn't live with them for 15 years. I wouldn't deal with no man. If I
Mm-hmm.
did, it was on the outside. Now, one of the things I used to teach them, because I did have to take on that little bit more of a masculine role. And let me just share what I mean. Like my daughter's friends, they were afraid of me because they knew I didn't play. Boys as well. Oh, I'm scared of your mother because I had to take on that role. Like you touch my daughter, I'm gonna shoot you, right? I ain't gonna try to beat you because I know I can't, but I'm gonna kill you, right? So at the end of the day, you're forced to take that on because you don't have that male figure in the house. However,
Right.
on the flip side of that, when I did get involved. Well, let me go back. One of the things I used to teach Paul, he's standing 6'6" now, and my protector, I always used to teach him, when he got 14,
Mm.
you're our protector. You to protect
Mm.
all of us. And they said they said, you protect us in this house. And when he
Mm.
got a certain age and he started growing, you answer the door. You the man now. So I used to tell him all the time, I can't teach you how to be a man, but I can teach you how to find the man within yourself. And
I like that.
I mean, I dealt with him in a certain, I had to be a little harsh on him. I might have
Yeah.
had, and I'm honestly
My mom
say,
was the same way.
yeah. Like I had to be hard. But what's crazy is because I raised him from a young age and I put that, I don't like to use the word fear, but that respect. To this
Yes.
day, they all have respect for me, right? So
Sure,
it's one of those things where I taught them. Now I had to be a little bit more harsh and I had to take on that masculine thing. Well, you know what? You big now, so I'm gonna have to get the bat and hit you because you're a big man now, right? However, I never had to because I put so much respect in them that they always respect me. Honestly speaking, I didn't have no problems out of that boy at all.
Mm.
To this day,
That's, that's what's up.
he got his own apartment at 26 years old, got his own, do his own job, got his own apartment. I had to told him to do nothing. He did it. Now, let's go back to the side of when I did get a man. By then, they grown, right?
Yeah.
I had enough sense to know I had to fall back a little bit.
Mm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, over the years, I would hear, even my father say, you think like a man. You think like, no, I don't think like a man, but you got to remember, I had to pretty much take on that role a little bit because I raised 4 kids by myself.
Right.
However, when I did get a man, I know how to fall back.
Mm.
Now, I don't like to use the word positions or whatever. I knew
Mm.
that, honestly speaking, as a woman and as a feminine woman, I don't care how much I think like a man, I'm still feminine. I
Right.
wanted that man to take that role.
Mm.
Now, I'm gonna share this. In some cases, you go on your dates, when you're dating in the dating scene. Some of the men act like women, right?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
well, and I'm not even trying to be funny. So it wasn't one of the things. Let me make this clear. I
Yeah.
was never ever one because I always loved to ground my black men walking. I got 7 brothers. I love my black men. I was never one to demean them or degrade them. I didn't play that
Mm.
bullshit. I didn't like that. I didn't do that. So
Right.
my thing was always to uplift them.
Mm.
But this is where the trauma comes again. You had some men that act like babies. You
Yes.
had some men that, I'm not going to say they were feminine, but that was so
They,
sensitive because whatever they went through, you know what I mean? They
and they
couldn't
distribute
deal
feminine
with my
energy too.
energy.
Yeah.
Huh?
I say
Right.
yeah, because they distribute feminine energy. I see that a lot. I know exactly what you're talking about with that because I see it.
Right. Now, then you have the ones say, well, you too hard. I'm not hard.
Right.
I'm all feminine. I'm the one who's gonna cook your dinner. I'm the one who's gonna support you. I'm the one who's gonna come and uplift you and make you a better man. Right?
Mm. That's
But when
true.
you say that I'm the one who is hard or I think I'm acting like a man, you wrong.
Mm.
I'm just too much woman for you,
Mm.
which makes me think that you got some healing to do.
Yep.
And a lot of times I would tell them, you go heal, go get some healing. I
Yes.
still love you. You're my brother. I still love you. But guess what? You're not gonna come in my face and tell me I'm too much of a man because I know how to take care of my man.
Yeah.
Did I need healing? Yes, I did need healing. And I got counseling for that. And
Mm.
I got a better understanding of, what I needed to do, which was fall back.
Right.
I'll let a man be a man because if you're gonna be a man, then you do what you do. You
Right.
are supposed to be my protector, right? Now, I'm not one that's gonna say that you automatically have to physically take. I'm not into material shit because I
Right.
know how to take care of myself. If you want to ask what I got, let's do
Right.
this, right?
Yes.
Um, but a lot of that comes back to what we talk about, my brother, is the communication,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
So we gotta close that gap because, first of all, I like to say this, and people may not agree, but I don't give a goddamn. Respect is number one.
Yes. I agree with that.
Respect is number one. I'm not gonna talk to you like you a child because I'm not your mother. I
I
don't
agree.
want you to talk to me like you're my father because you're not my daddy. My daddy's in his grave now. She's in the land of the ancestors, okay? So, with saying that, that's the number one thing that has to take place when it talks about relationship. I don't care how much trauma you got, but you do know right from wrong. You do know how to talk to people. Because as well as we've been brainwashed and programmed, we also know how to treat people accordingly.
Yeah.
There's one thing I have to say in the community, whether you're in Africa, whether you're here, whether you have respect for your fellow brother or sister,
And
right?
yep.
So with saying that, we have to learn how to respect each other.
Yes. Yes.
Because if I
Yeah.
respect you, then I'm not gonna be yelling at you. What you say, nigga? And I'm not doing none of that.
That's a whole show within itself. I mean, literally, that might be the next one because that's a whole show in itself. And I'm gonna tell you, and I don't want to interrupt, but just how
Go
I've
ahead.
been saying this for so long, like we need to do that with ourselves when it comes to this spiritual stuff because I feel
Right,
like that is a huge roadblock where we're not working together collectively because somebody's a Christian or somebody's a Muslim or somebody's a Ephah or somebody's Kemetic or somebody. You know what I'm saying? It's like
right.
none of that shit should matter. If you respect somebody, it shouldn't
That's
matter.
right.
It's the
That's
people
right.
who are religious extremists that cannot respect somebody because they feel like their God is the only God and the best God.
Right,
And
right,
so
right.
that respect thing is huge,
Well,
internally within the family and the community, but also definitely even in the whole, global culture. So I agree with you a
yeah, but
million.
even to the point where they don't respect our elders no more. How you not respecting your elders?
Yep.
You got to
Yep.
get old one day, so
Yeah.
you need to respect your elders, right?
Yeah.
Now
Mm-hmm.
I hear people say, "Well, nah, that elder wasn't good. My mother didn't treat me good." I don't give a damn what she did. She brought you in this world, and you know what? She brought you in this world. Now and then a lot of times we don't realize that they have traumas too. So
Yes.
don't judge your mother because she don't know how to do what you want her to do, or because she was bringing different men in the house because she had to feed you.
Yep.
Don't do that. So that all comes back to that healing in the community. But first of all, as far as religion goes, y'all, stop it. Cut it out. I
Mm.
tell people, I don't care if you call on God, Jehovah, whatever. Let's get in the middle of the street. I'm going to call on the ancestors. You call on God, you call on Allah, and let's change the community. That's what we need to do.
I love that. Yes, sir. That's facts.
Right? Because at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, they don't care about you. So as a community, we got to come back to that village. But they don't care about you. They don't care what you believe in. So you better get it together as far as working together, whether you Christian, Muslim, whatever you believe in, that's your business. What you do behind your but what about what we're going to do as a collective to help the next generation? Because remember, the next generation got to take care of your old behind.
Facts.
We have to start showing them what it is to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So
Nah,
as a, I'm
that's
looking at the
real,
comment.
man. That's real. It's powerful. And you know what? We have to normalize healing and also normalize being willing to be, equal, to our
Right,
significant others, whether, you know what I mean? Because that's one of the
right,
things I'm huge with. Like, I don't care who makes the most money. I don't care who, you know what I'm saying, does this, does that. As
right,
long as we see eye to eye and we know that we're for the cause, collectively in this one ship, then all the rest don't matter to me. Like, let's just get it. You
right,
know what I'm saying? Let's make it
right,
happen and let's get it because that's what it needs. That's what it takes. I feel like to have a successful union, even with self. You know what I'm saying? Like
right,
I'm
right.
very, very. I ain't gonna say I'm hard on myself, but I challenge myself a lot, and I don't let myself off the hook or slide. So when I ain't doing right or I ain't doing enough, I'm like, there's a voice in there that's kicking my ass the way you were talking to your pops for a minute because it's like,
Hmm.
but it's not in a negative self-hating type way. It's just like you need to
Right,
tighten up, let's get this ish done type way. You know what I'm saying? So it's
right,
like,
right,
and that's what's expected of you is to get it done because
right.
it's bigger than you. This ain't about little you. This is about what little you can do to help a bigger, impact for our community. So it's like
And
that's
about that what with that little boy looking at you, that's what you got to do. So them kids is looking at you, so you got to do that. It's your responsibility as a man now to do that. It's a responsibility for me to be that role model for that young girl, whether it's my daughter or not. I need
yep.
her to see that I know how to dress accordingly. I need her to see I know how to respect my men that are our protectors. So it's very important. So you're right. A lot of times we do fight with ourselves, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm always gonna go to spirit. Spirit,
Mm-hmm.
again, help me out because I can't deal with this right now. I'll go straight to my gods and my spirit. So at the end of the day, It's good that you do that because it's needed. Because when you check yourself, then you can make yourself a better person for that young boy who's looking up to you.
I sure. That's
You
facts.
know, and we have to start doing it. Do we have any questions? Anybody want to
You
ask a
do.
question?
Yeah, and it's funny because I was telling them in the comments, there was a ton of dope comments that I'm gonna have to screenshot because I gotta
Okay.
I wanna get a couple real quick before we wrap it up because I gotta get up and do some traveling early. But I
Okay.
would love to run this back. I might try to even run it back tomorrow. I have to get with you off here and see. I know the schedule tomorrow might be tough, but either way, we'll make it happen again, and
Okay.
I'll figure out how I can get to some of these other comments too because we had some dope ones that they gonna take time because there was phenomenal questions. Shout out to Nkosi, Shot Guys, there's a bunch of them, but Shot Guys did bring up one that I would love to hit too though before we wrap it up, and then you
Okay.
share whatever you want, and let everybody know how to. Well, I'll put that in the description how to find you and all that. But I agree with what Shot Guy is saying. Shout out to Shot Guy. I appreciate that. Shot Guy is like we do need to acknowledge the need to be healed in order to move forward, and that
That's
goes back
true.
to one of the. I'll never forget one of the hardest pills to swallow and one of the toughest lessons that I learned. And man, when I tell you, it was gut wrenching. It felt like a damn like somebody was trying to cut me from the inside and cut their way out of me. That's how deep this stuff truth cut and hurt. But thank God for it because it made me look at life so differently in regards to it. And what it was is one of my old barbers he was a seer as well. And he had a gift to see. He would just give me without me even asking for him. So, but I remember a situation that I was in, and he was telling me like the only way that I would be able to move forward is to heal. And he said the only way that I'd be able to heal was to forgive. And when I
That's
tell
true.
you it lit a fire in me, a volcano exploded, I'm like, ain't no way you don't. Who the hell are you to tell me I need to forgive? You don't know
Forgive.
what I'm dealing with. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. That's where that aggression and all, that rage and stuff kind of try to raise up. But spirit, the higher self, the child of God and stuff, I feel like is always in control and keeps the rest of the voices at bay. Like y'all sit down somewhere and shut up because this ain't what it is. Like that voice was like, he's right. He's
Yeah.
right. And I don't
Yeah.
want to hear nothing else. He's right. So you need to think about that. You need to figure that out before you think about nothing else. And it's like that voice would not let me go. I'm like, damn. And then finally I conceded to it. Like, you know what? You're right. You're right. And when I tell you, when I did that wholeheartedly and like did it with no strings attached, like just with pure intentions and did it, it felt like the weight of all the rocks of the pyramids was lifted off of me because I was like, damn, I do feel better. You know what I'm saying? And then that's when my healing journey began. So how significant do you feel forgiveness is in the process of healing?
It's very significant. You can't walk around holding on to something you can't change. If you can change it, go back and change it. That's what I say. So another thing too. Okay, we all know that we had situations, we had trauma, but once you begin on your healing path, you gotta make sure that you don't put it in your mind. So that means don't waste 1/4 of your brain thinking about something that you cannot change. And when you realize that you cannot change it, then you'll be able to forgive. You understand? Because you can no longer change it. Everything happens for a reason. It may not be good. It may not be according to what you think should be good. We don't know, right? We ain't running nothing down here, but we do know that we cannot change our life experiences. And we're saying that you have a choice to wake up in the morning and say, you know what? I'm not going to think about the fact he cheated. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to forgive him. I'm going to forget and forget. Because if I forgive you, I got to forget too. And that means that we can move forward. Because if I forgive you, then, we're going to be good. And I forgive myself for being angry and wasting my time and energy for thinking about something I can't change. It's already done. So it's very important to forgive. And not only that, you got to add forgetting it because a lot of times say, well, I forgive him. Well, you need to forget too.
Yeah.
You can't forgive and not forget because if you don't forget, that means you have not forgiven him nor yourself. So that's highly important to forgive. I mean, you'll feel so much better. Then you got to also too, like I said, you can't waste your time thinking about something you can't change.
Right. That's facts. That's big facts, man. Like I'm gonna tell you, that's where my ability to navigate in one ships come. Like it makes it so much easier for me because I've realized that. And so even like dealing with children, you know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't have to be my children. It could be children that I work with in the community or whoever. It's like you have to have that level of the ability to like know that you can't get tangled up in what you can't control. And so
That's
it's like,
right.
I'm like one of the people who I don't want to hear nothing about no drama, no gossip, no chaos, no BS, no nothing. Because my my famous answer is, look, I got enough on my own plate I ain't figured out just yet. So I'd be damned if I'm gonna take something from somebody else. But I don't want to hear about it, be involved in it. I don't want
Right.
nothing to do with it because I'm trying to figure my own plate out. So I don't want nothing they got going on. But that's real because I feel like we fall captive
Yeah.
to the fear of what someone can do to us in regards to hurting us. But my thing is, if
Right.
I look at it like, I can't control if somebody does something to hurt me, but I can control how I deal with or do not deal with that person. I can control
Right.
how I allow them to be involved in my life. I can control and negotiate what part or what role, if any, they will still have in my life going forward. I can
That's
control
right.
that part. And then that
That's
way I
right.
can prevent them from hurting me, or, you know what I'm saying? All
And
that
get
stuff,
exactly.
putting all that time and energy and effort stressing over it. Nah, there's too much other stuff I
Exactly.
can be doing with that energy.
One of the things we got to recognize, first of all, we're merely human beings on this planet. We're spiritual beings living this human experience.
Mm,
Every human on this planet is going to go through experience,
mm-hmm.
whether they're good or bad. Okay. And all of us can, you say we have good and bad experiences, right?
Right.
So life is an experience anyway. Spiritually, I see that our people, not just Black people, but people on humanity, is
Mm-hmm.
evolving spiritually. And
Mm-hmm.
if you actually now let's go back to the fact of the traumas that we're dealing with. So it's happening naturally. The DNA is changing. The
Yes.
DNA is reactivating. So naturally, you're seeing more people that want peace, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
when it's all said and done, we're all one big brain. But you're seeing
Yeah.
more people that just want peace. So in the DNA, as it reactivates, you're seeing more people that's dealing with less and less trauma. Even what we see going on TV, ain't nobody paying
Yeah.
attention.
Mm-mm.
People living, trying to start their farms, trying to do this.
Mm-hmm.
More people are they're not adhering to the fact that they're trying to cause race wars. Ain't
Yep.
nobody feeding into none of that.
Yes.
So it
I
just
love
shows you what's
it. Yes.
happening on a global level with humanity in itself.
Yes. I
Right.
love that too,
Right.
man. Yep.
hmm
Yeah.
So
Nah. Yeah.
go
And I
ahead.
see it. I see it. Everything you're saying, I see it, and I love it. Like, even like just something simple that I like to do is give another brother a compliment. Like, if I see a dude, he
Right.
got a fly suit on or some dope J's or some sneakers or whatever, I'm like, yo, your kicks is dope, bro. I appreciate that. You
Uh-huh.
know, because and
Uh-huh.
I like the way they face light up. Like, man, you know, what I'm saying, get like an extra pep in step, like the swagger come up a little bit because I know
hmm
how I feel when another brother does it to me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's like,
Right.
it's a beautiful thing to show other people love versus
Love.
bumping heads and beefing and hating, that crab in the barrel mentality, because it takes too much energy for all that drama and BS.
Right. Well, that's part of trauma of our people too, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the trauma that we dealt with over the years. That's something we are working on. That's happening naturally too. Because
Mm,
I love my sisters and I love my brothers. You see what
mm,
I'm saying? So if I see another sister that's doing thing, I'm happy for her. She's doing her thing. I'm gonna compliment her too. I mean,
mm.
but all of that is happening naturally because you gotta remember, we programmed and brainwashed to see these things. You
Yep,
watch it on TV.
yep,
Just like the first gangs you seen was the Italian gangs, right?
yep,
So
yep.
at the end of the day, all of this is like a learned behavior and brainwashing and programming. There's one thing that Francis Cress Wilson said. If there's one thing we do have in the Black community is love. And she
Mm,
did an example and she showed how everybody would come together. The brothers, hey brother, how you doing? Come together, smack their hand. They're showing
mm-hmm.
love, right?
Yeah.
I thought that was so deep when she showed that when she was doing a lecture one time. And I
Mm,
was like, that's very true. And
yes.
I'm gonna share this before we go.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my husband, we don't go out too much, but we did go out last week. My cousin
Mm-hmm.
came from North Carolina
Mm-hmm.
and they were having a surprise party for a good friend of hers.
Mm-hmm.
And what's crazy is we haven't went out, so we dressed up and we went out with her.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting in the back, I'm watching because I don't drink. I'm watching everybody dancing. They doing this fan dance. I ain't never heard of it, but she put us on with the fan dance. Then they got the cowboy hats, right?
Yeah.
So she's telling me the history behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, the whole club, first of all, was Black. And I was so impressed. I'm not playing. I put it on video because
Mm.
I sat back and I was so happy. And I said, my people just want to be happy.
Yes.
They just want to be happy. Our people are creative. Our
Yes.
people just want to be happy. So, I'm
Yes.
watching them. Everybody's on the dance floor throwing their fans and dancing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the cowboy hats, the cowboy, and I didn't know that she was explaining to me they started doing that recently now in the clubs, is because
Mm-hmm.
they're saying they were the original farmers, which we
And they
know is
were.
true.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Yep.
So
And
I
Cowboys.
just, yeah, the
Cowboys.
original
The first
cowboys,
Cowboys were
right.
back. They were us.
Right. So I'm
Yeah.
like, wow. And I'm just watching how the ancestors are bringing it all back around full force,
Full
right?
circle. Yes,
So
sir.
that's why I said our people's coming back. Are
Oh,
we
yeah.
healing? We have to do work physically, but spiritually, the ancestors is making it happen. And
Listen,
that's
and
what
they
we better
showing
pay
up,
attention to.
and they showing
Mhm,
up and showing out. I had about, I think, maybe 3 or more conversations today with people who said they've been at their strides and chopping it up. Not today, but I should say this week. Chopping it
mhm,
up with the ancestors and this and that, da, da, da. And they've
mhm.
all had different signs of symbolism where the ancestors made an appearance. And I'm like, man, look, boy, if that ain't God, boy, I know. Like for me, it happened during my Ifa ceremony. I'm like,
Oh,
yo.
you know what? It's deep you say that. It's deep you say that because yesterday we went to see some land because we trying to do an indigenous village.
Look, I talked to a lawyer today.
You told you? So
And
we
we got a
standing.
lot more to talk about off the air because some
Okay,
more
okay.
stuff. Yeah.
So, but let me tell you, okay, so while we standing there talking to the guy, white guy, real quick, and it's crazy because before we walked up, like, I could see. So my vision seen exactly what this man looked like. I said,
Mm,
he's tall, he got a beard, straight white boy, right? He was real nice, though.
mm.
So while we're standing there talking, you see the birds, they fly in between us. Two birds flew in between us, right? I said, okay, here we go. Then you start seeing the trees move a little bit. I said, all right. So as I'm looking, as they talking, everybody's talking, I'm looking around. Behind there is a huge farm. I said a black man used to own this land. I seen a black man with a cowboy hat walking around on that land. I said they took this land from that man, right? But it's sort of like the spirits and the birds was letting us know we happy y'all here to take it back. I'm gonna just
Listen,
leave it at that.
look, and I'm gonna throw one more just like that too before we
Okay.
go because damn, I wish I had. Yeah, we're gonna do it again. But you remember I got with you with the mothers a few weeks ago, right?
Hmm.
I did what I needed to do, and
Hmm.
I'll be damned if I want to say last weekend was walking through the neighborhood
Hmm.
that I did what I needed to do, and I promise you everything I love. A beautiful red cardinal was sitting at the same exact spot where I went to give my offering to the mothers. I'm like, boy, if that ain't if that ain't
That's deep.
man, listen, I was like it took me probably like 10, 15 minutes to kind of calm down on the inside because I was just like, it was one thing just for any bird to be there, you know what I'm saying, knowing the
Right.
significance of that. But then
Right.
that bird there, I'm like, boy, they showing out, boy,
Showing out.
they up there showing up and showing out, boy, they doing their thing, boy.
They letting you know, yeah, we got your offering and we got you. That's what
Yes,
they
sir.
letting you know.
I was
Yeah.
like, yo.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see it, man, and I love it. I do. I
Yeah.
love it. I
Yeah, I
love
do too. And it's how ancestors out here hot and heavy, y'all.
it.
Yeah. I think Shaw Goddard said, what are your thoughts on triggers that may remind you of a trauma?
Mm,
I think the issue kind of remains with you, although you forgave. I'm gonna agree with you, my sister. Shaw
mm,
Goddard, I'm gonna because I feel like again, if you forgive, you are control of your mind, of your body, of your soul.
mm.
Again, now let's try this. Let's go to sleep. And when I wake up, I'm gonna say it's gonna be a good day.
Yes.
And if I say it's gonna be a good day, it's gonna be a good day.
Yeah.
But if I say it's going bad day, so sort of like I'm using that ashe to curse my like
Yeah.
inyama to curse myself, right?
Yes. Yes.
So my thing is again, I control my thoughts.
Yes.
I control them. And yes, you may have triggers sometimes, but you gotta shut them triggers down. You gotta, and it takes time. I'm gonna say this. It takes time. It may take you a week or 2 or 3 weeks to
Mm,
learn how to discipline yourself to just not let them trigger you. Right?
yes.
You really control we all have our own little worlds. And
Yes.
trust me, I know because I get 100 calls a day. Everybody got something going on in their world.
Yep.
Okay. But
Mm-hmm.
in my world, I don't choose to allow nothing to make me angry. I don't choose to allow nothing to, trigger me from whatever I might have some trauma. No, I'm just not allowing it because I'm in a different space now.
Yes. Yep.
And not only that, you get older. I'm over 50 years. I'm gonna be 55 in May. Let me tell y'all something. I'm not trying to deal with none of that.
I know that's
And
right.
if I don't want to deal with it, I'm not gonna deal with it. So I don't care how many triggers you could push the trigger you want to, but I'm gonna be like, all right, and I'm gonna tell you like just take that over there because I don't want to hear it.
Yes.
Right? You just
Mm-hmm.
have to really, really discipline yourself to not let them trigger you. You understand? Whatever trauma you have.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have a choice. I can smack you, I can walk away.
Yep.
Right? And I choose to walk away because I'm not going to jail for you and nobody else. Because I
Yep.
like my freedom.
I know that's right.
So it's a matter of us taking back our minds, as I said before, getting DDR, delete, deprogram, delete, and reprogram.
Mm. I like
Take
that.
back your take back your mind, because you have been brainwashing program. Your subconscious mind, you live for most of your life by, because everything you know, you was taught.
Yep.
You was
Fact.
taught that was a fan. You was
Mm-hmm.
taught that the sun was you understand this color. But
Yep.
do you really know?
Yeah.
So we have to start taking our minds back, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
very, very big on even, and I want to share this real quick. I'm very big on a lot of people into Ifa.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know I deal with three different traditions, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to say this. A lot of times I'm getting a lot of calls where these people are saying they got initiated, they went to Africa, and they got Babalaos and got this, but they're not teaching them, right? I've got about 4 or 5 calls this week where they're not being taught, but they got Babalaos, they're spending money for edibles, they do it, but they're not teaching them. So you know what I tell people? I said, let me tell you something. If you're the daughter of Iyami, or if you're the daughter of Sango, go to Sango. Go into spirit with that actual reset and let them teach you, because they will teach you,
Mm.
right? They will teach you. They'll tell you what to do.
Yeah.
A lot of times they don't know. And it all comes back to make sure you're in your own world and you're communicating with these things. Somebody said that Agun have returned and their
Mm.
presence is unmistakable. And that's right. I
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
right? So
Mm.
my thing is we have to learn how to create, control our own worlds. Take your minds back from humanity and the things that you were taught.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're so, I'm not even going to say damaged anymore, because the DNA is reactivating
Mm-hmm.
and it's happening naturally.
Mm-hmm.
So just let the ancestors guide. Let that DNA keep reactivating, because you're gonna see you're gonna be more of a lighter being. Your
Mm-hmm.
thinking is going to change.
Yes, sir.
The way you used to think then, ancestors said not no more. That DNA said we reactivating. So all that programming and brainwashing is gonna be done.
Yep.
You're
I
gonna
should.
forget about that,
I
right?
should.
So that's what's happening with us now. So embrace that energy, y'all.
I should.
Embrace it, because it's a beautiful thing.
I
A
should.
beautiful thing.
Yes,
Yep.
sir. And you know what? This just came to me in closing. And spirit came like we're going through a software update. That's what I see it
Okay.
as. It's like a spiritual software update.
Right. I like
And
that.
that's where we're at, because the planet herself is going through the same elevation and update. So is the universe, you know what I'm saying, our solar system.
Right.
And I'm real deep into that. And
Hmm.
I love what you said about the education. Shout out to Baba Ifa Karaday, because me and him been talking about that for the longest. About, I should say
Hmm.
him, but me and him together been talking
Hmm.
about it too. And that's where there's a huge disparity with our tradition. We have to figure out how to be, or where to get the education before the
Right.
initiation. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's the purpose. I know so many people who are initiated but don't even know how to do a divination, or don't know how to do an abo, or don't know, you know what I'm saying? Like they're not doing
Right.
anything that they paid thousands of dollars to get. You know what
Yep.
I'm saying? And you
Yep.
talk about, like, even earlier when we started, there's people who I work with who have paid to have pots and initiations, and or
Yep.
getting their
Yep.
warriors, or whatever, and never got shells to learn how to divine, to
Yeah.
learn basic, OB results
Right.
and answers. So it's like, and it burns me up, because like, how, like, the whole purpose of you, someone who's in the leadership role or low or whatever, initiating somebody, is to groom them and teach them and nourish them, so they can become a leader and, you know what I'm saying, a healer
Right.
themselves, uplift and empower
Right.
others. That's the whole purpose of this, for real. Unless you're
Right.
about
Right.
to do, whatever, but we ain't on there. But so that is like, you're defeating the purpose. Like, what are we even in this tradition for if you're just trying to get money from people and you ain't helping other
Exactly.
to be able to be the
Exactly.
healers that you said that we need, which we do need, to help
Yeah.
the collective of our people. So it's like,
Right.
we're gonna do something about that at our shape for sure. And I'm gonna
Well,
definitely keep
good. Just share on that, because we need to do that, because so
absolutely.
many people are, and the crazy thing is they're waking up at an alarming rate.
Yes, that's facts.
I got a lot of young men in prison that we deal with over the years that are dealing with EFA in prison,
Mm-hmm.
right? We got
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people out in the community.
Yeah.
Everybody and their mothers into EFA. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, it is, something that's needed. And yeah, we need to talk about that after, because people need to know.
Oh, we're gonna get it for sure. I
Okay.
already,
Okay.
I know, like, I got a lot. I was working on that this weekend, even while
Uh-huh.
traveling. I was working on, the different strategies and just implementing a lot more in
Okay.
depth trainings, and I got a lot coming. I'm, like I said, and we still got to, follow up from last week to talk
Okay.
about stuff too. So we definitely got a lot, and I look forward to merging any way possible where we can maybe do something where our communities can even maybe possibly do certain things together. Because
Yeah,
my tribe, yeah, I think it's collective. I feel like we
right. It
definitely
is.
some powerful things, man. So I look forward to it for sure.
Okay, yeah, definitely. That'll be something that is well needed, though. We got to come together.
Yes,
I
man.
know one thing, we're gonna have to put some serious protection on it, though, because you got the outsiders that's
Oh
you
yeah,
know being
yeah.
nosy, but honestly speaking, I'm gonna tell you like this: they better sit down somewhere because the ancestors got this.
Listen,
The ancestors got this. Let them
yes,
try if they want. Because
and
them
they not
tornadoes about to come through and tear up some land. If they don't, let us do what we got to do. Right?
playing either. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah.
They are not playing. I'm telling you, like it's so dope because to get the calls and the texts I've been getting this week, man. Like I'm like, yeah, that's the ancestors, bro. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
I know. I done see what you done saw, boy. I done lived that before. That's the
That's right.
ancestors, and we here. They here now,
That's
and they
right.
ready to go. So I'm with that all day, every day. That's
Okay. Okay.
that's what's up. Well, with that, do you have anything you want to leave the tribe with until we all meet again before we roll out?
Well, based off the fact that this is a show about one ships, right? I call them one ships, y'all.
I say,
Let's just try to work harder on, working together and closing that communication gap, right? Men and women, period. All right. We need to learn how to communicate with each other because, other brothers and sisters, Hispanics and stuff, they still people of color, we ought to learn how to communicate and start respecting each other. That's the most important thing. We have to respect each other. For respect first, love after, right? Because if you got respect, then you can flow off in the area of love. And then as you love, you can make things happen and you can bring peace, love, and harmony back to many one ships that we have. So, and let's work on healing, start healing. Take the time to heal, whether you go to counseling or whatever it may be, because a lot of us still suffer from trauma. So it's very important to get some healing. Um, it is what it is. We do spiritual counseling too. I don't know if you do it too, my brother, but we
yep,
can offer spiritual counseling. You do it too. So we both
yeah,
can, we can offer the spiritual counseling services for brothers and sisters that may not want to go, the traditional psychiatrist or therapist. We do
yep,
it in the spiritual community too. So
yep,
we can work with y'all as well. So that's
mhm,
something we can offer up for the people because some people really need help. But
yeah.
most of all, the good thing is that the ancestors are behind us all. And the ancestors say we're gonna be all right.
Mm-hmm. I
Yeah.
say, yes, sir.
Ashe.
Yes, sir. That's facts, man. Yeah, we had a dope tribe, man. Dope show, turnout, man. The tribe was going in. And Kosi, shout out to Kosi. I see you, brother. I appreciate them comments. You inspired a whole nother show, bro. I didn't not answer your questions and bring them to the floor because I know how good they were, or how great they were, and they deserve their own damn show. So we're gonna make that happen for sure. So I
Okay.
got to go with that. And then yeah, shout out to everybody who's showed up and showed out and showed love, man. I appreciate all y'all family. Shout out to you. I appreciate you, Unam, and I appreciate
Welcome.
being willing to to join us and pour in and share the knowledge and the wisdom and the understanding, overstanding, understanding, of this thing called spirituality, with the people, man. So and nothing but love and respect to the work that you and the King are doing, man. I appreciate both of y'all for what y'all are doing for our community as well, and
I'll
I
say
look
hi.
forward to all of us, working together to do it on a whole nother level.
Here it goes right here.
What's going on with you, Baba? How you doing? Yes,
And
sir.
so,
That's
all
what's
right,
up.
well, we will appreciate y'all too. And then, thank the ancestors for y'all too, doing it where y'all doing it because it's needed everywhere. So thank you for having us as usual.
I sure. No, I appreciate it.
Ashe.
And so with that, family, I'll definitely link the information for Unan's website in the description and so description that'll be in there. And then also I'll put your socials in there as well. I'll put the social
Okay.
in the website link. So 'cause I'm pretty sure people probably gonna want to reach out. So I
Well,
definitely
the way, sorry to cut your wisdom, but people have been reaching out from your show. They've been calling. Oh, well, I see you on the African Space. You know what I mean? So you send them, your energy is sending them because they sure calling. I
look.
had about 4 people that called, no, about 5 of them that called for readings already.
Listen, and I'm gonna tell you what's
Thank
even
you.
more dope. No, you're welcome. But what's more dope is the stuff that I was working on. I've mentioned this several times, but now I'm about to really make it happen. But I know I got a lot of people who watch the channel who are entrepreneurs, who are business owners, or who want to be entrepreneurs. So I'm going to add the element of entrepreneurship and branding and marketing,
Hmm.
content as well to really help people with that, but also to show like that we have the juice. So, for example, I
Right,
love that you said that because that's a way for us to leverage who and what we are in regards to sponsorships. You know what I'm saying?
right,
Because people
right.
got to realize when you're adding value, you can get compensated for that value, and you don't have to
Right.
break your community or your people. There's other ways to grow and scale, you know, to bring in
Right.
revenue where you can use what you do or what you have to be able to do that. So I definitely appreciate you, and that's literally what I do it for. You know, and I've shared that with
Right.
our other guests too. Like, yo, you're gonna get people that's gonna show love, and they're gonna, you know, if you're bringing something to the marketplace or to the channel that people need or want, you know, that there's a desire for, you know, they're gonna show love, man. So, and that's why I always open up with showing love, because I appreciate the love they show me, but not just me, each other and our
Each
kids.
other, right?
You know what I'm saying? That's the part where I'm like, that's nothing but God, you know, because that's not, I never, you know, put no syllabus together for nothing. I'm just being obedient, listening to, you know, spirit myself. So I love to see, you know, the unification of all of us coming together. So I love it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I really do. I really do. Because it's time. It's time for us to get the work done. Because I'm gonna tell y'all again, you better take heed because the ancestors are watching now. I will tell you this: if you're not doing what's righteous and you're not doing as what we see here coming together collective, the ancestors not playing with y'all right now. It is what it is. If you don't believe me, watch and see.
I've already seen.
We are being forced to come together. Ain't no
Yes,
ifs,
sir.
ands, buts about it. So we have to thank our ancestors as usual. Thank the ancestors for, continuing to guide our path. Marcus Garvey said, "I'm coming back in the world one," but he ain't tell y'all he was bringing 1,000,000 ancestors with him.
I wouldn't be
That's
surprised
right.
if it's already back, because I'm telling you, I'm seeing some things and I love it. So
That's what I'm
yeah.
saying. He is back. He brought a whole bunch of ancestors with him too.
Oh
Now
yeah.
they like the 1,000,000 man. They like the 1,000,000 man army, China army. That's how
Yes,
many
sir.
ancestors I seen coming. Yeah,
Yes, sir. That's facts. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm
So
telling you, like, the shows are the proof. You know, the receipts
yeah,
are right here on the chat. I see it just in the channel alone. I see it. And even the people who call me, like, showing love, like, yo, y'all
yeah.
doing some things now. Like, hey, you know what I'm saying? So
See,
it's like, it's
yeah,
real. But, you know, and I love it because it's just real. Everybody has been a part
yeah,
of it. You and every other guest, it just came in and showed straight, you know, just real, you know, just being
yeah.
totally transparent,
Really,
and real. And I feel like that's
yeah.
where, you know, we're in our own lane, with no disrespect to nobody else's shows either. But damn it, we here and we
We're
doing
here,
something.
right,
Yes,
right.
sir. So
But
I
they
appreciate
gotta realize there's enough for everybody, and as a
that.
matter of fact, all of us are needed.
Nobody
You
can
know what I'm
outshine
saying?
this.
Nobody can outshine everybody's information. Everybody's needed because every day you got people that's waking up. You got
Yeah.
people that's just now learning about their ancestors.
Yeah.
And
Oh
I'm talking
yeah.
about especially Black people. They don't know
Yeah.
nothing about it. Now they're coming out the churches. So we still need everybody. We need everybody.
All hands on deck.
That's right. You know what I mean? If that's the same Shaw Goddess, I think that's one of my sisters. I think if that's the same one. She used to do rap, and she put me on one of her rap songs. I just love the sister. If
It
that's the
might
same
be.
Shaw Goddess, it's her.
It might
Okay.
be. I'm telling you, you know, this community is small, man. There's a lot of people who, you know, like, I've linked with, that's like, they know y'all. Like, there's been people who I
Right.
had on as a guest who, it was my first time interviewing, but the brothers and sisters in the comments like, yo, that's so and so, man. I know his daughter, da da da. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
Yeah.
and that's where I'm like, you know, it's a large world, but the conscious community is
Mm.
small. You know, it's a
Small,
small.
yeah.
Yeah.
And if I think that's her, to shout out to my sister because she's a really good sister. I love this sister. I think I had her on my show too. And we play her songs, but yeah, um, yeah. But everybody, they trust me. We all need it, all of us. And
Absolutely.
another thing too, there's enough money for all of us to make. Trust me when I tell you. So
Yes, indeed.
everybody's needed. So ain't no hating. We just gotta do what we do and do it
Yep.
righteously.
That's
Okay.
fact.
So I'm gonna leave y'all with that, family. I love y'all. Thank you for having me again, my brother.
Absolutely.
Safe travels, because I know you're traveling. So safe travels for you and your family. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate you. No, that's real. No, I appreciate it too, man. And shout out to the tribe and everybody who stopped through tonight. Shout out to the folks who will see the upload as well. But yeah, we definitely appreciate the love and support, and we're gonna keep making it do what it do, family. So we'll see y'all pretty soon. We definitely have some shows coming up this week as well. So I'll definitely be sharing those on the channel, and then me and Wunam will definitely figure out when we can get this thing, you know, back going again to make it
Okay.
happen. You know, bringing the Wunam Ashe to these streets. So, family, I appreciate y'all. This has been another episode of the African Spirituality Experience. I'm your host, Orisha Bami. Shout out to the Ashe Tribe, Ashe Nation, and everybody who came, you know, tonight to show up and show love, man. We appreciate y'all. So we'll see y'all in the next episode. We out, family. Peace.
All right. Peace. Odabo.
ẹni tó gbàgbé ilé sàpò ìyàgbọ́ tẹ́ǹtì ẹni takísà ní tàtàn ò bá padà sílé anítìjà kọ ẹja lọ pé eégún mo ṣe nígbẹ́rẹ́ ìpàkọ́ forsake not your ancestors and praise your.